The college basketball experience Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, aka the MEAC 2024-25 season preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to score up to $1,000 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome everybody into the college basketball experience Sunday night in the MEAC, baby. What a great way to end a weekend talking MEAC basketball for the 24-25 season preview. Can't wait to talk about the MEAC, another league that's kind of located near me here in the state of Virginia. But first off, I am Moneyline Mac, aka the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac Tonight over here at the College Basketball Experience. And it's preview season. And we head over to the MEAC. And joining me, well, you guys know him from the College Baseball Experience, College Basketball Experience, and, of course, College Football Experience as well. He is the window banging, drywall hanging, Lambaron driving, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. What is up, brother? Hope you're having a good weekend.
It's okay. What's going on, Mac? Sicko season. We're talking MEAC during Sunday Night Football. Let's freaking go. And I think we're both probably having mixed weekends. I think, the Lions losing today, isn't quite as heartbreaking as your loss on Saturday. But I got to win on Saturday, and then you got to win on Sunday. So our teams kind of traded Saturdays and Sundays. I feel like both of us would have wanted to trade it the other way around, but
absolutely, yeah. I love the Redskins, but I would gladly trade it for yesterday's game. But yes, I guess at least the Skins are 1-1, Lions are 1-1, the Mountaineers are 1-2, and
how about that? 21 points, 7 field goals.
I know, yeah. Hey, Cybert, baby, Cybert mania. So, but hey, man, forget about football. This is the MEAC, baby. Which I like the MEAC. I like all the leagues, of course. But what's your thoughts on the MEAC headed into the 24-25 season?
Yeah, so I went back and I listened to our show that we did on the MEAC last year, and Mac, we fucking hit a grand slam. I'm not kidding you when I say, dude. So 1, 2, 3 in the finishing order of last year's regular season standings went pretty chalky. Norfolk State, NC Central, Howard. NC Central and Howard technically tied for second. Mm-hmm. What if I told you that both of us had that 1, 2, 3 pretty much in order, exactly how I said it originally? Yeah. And then the fourth place team was South Carolina State. Yeah, the team that won 2 total games in the MEAC last year, 5 total overall on the year. And both of us lunatics picked them fourth. They finished fourth. That was the sleeper for us last year. And you, my friend, predicted the entire order of 8 correctly. I tip my cap to you. Incredible performance last preview season. This is why you're one of the best. Both of us hit technically we went kind of chalky. We had South Carolina State sneak into the top 4. We picked Maryland Eastern Shore as our bust team. They finished 5th in 2023. We picked them to come in 7th, so we labeled that as the bust. They finished in 7th. The only thing I did was I flipped Morgan State and South Carolina State 4-5. But other than that, dude, in the preseason, we hit a grand slam.
Let's go. Hey, so what you're saying is we need to update my bio to former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin and MEAC guru special insider. Let's go. Love the MEAC.
There you go. We're not promising any kind of repeat performance. Who the hell knows what's going to happen this season in college basketball, but we're going to try to do our best. I feel pretty, I actually feel like I have a pretty good read on this conference once again this year.
Well, and it's another smaller league in terms of 8 teams. And we did this with the SWAC. We will highlight some of these schedules because this is another HBCU league I think all teams are HBCU. If I'm not
saying Moneyline MEAC in the
Moneyline MEAC, let's go, baby. I believe they are all HBCU. So they are required to play a shitload of bye games to fund their athletic department. We highlight this whenever we're going through that November and December picking games, and it's like, holy shit, South Carolina State. Weren't they just in Oregon? Now they're in Florida? Oh, wait, now they're in Indiana? Oh, now they're down at Texas Tech? Or now they're at UConn 3 days later. It's really the Harlem Globetrotters World Tour, but unfortunately they have to get it done to fund the athletic department. But I think it helps them prepare for league play at the same time.
It does, 100%. Before we get into this conference preview, allow me to pause for station identification for the next 15 seconds. The college basketball experience is brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And the NFL and college football seasons are in full swing. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Football Experience for free picks for every game against the spread. All right, Mac, we're going in alphabetical order here today. Let me fix my layout real quick.
That is saying I should be the MEAC commish, baby. Let's go. I'm working on trying to get to MEAC media days, but having some trouble in the communication. So anybody that knows the MEAC media days, please hit me up at Moneyline_back.
I don't know why I began this with my monitors all fucking all over the place, but now I'm ready. Let's do this thing. So in Coppin State, alphabetical order here. We're starting with the Eagles. 2-27 overall last season, 1-13. They did finish dead last in the MEAC. Larry Stewart enters year 1 as a Division I basketball head coach, but it's at a place that he's very familiar with, his alma mater. Unfortunately, the cupboard was pretty bare when he stepped into the building. Coppin State only returns 33.6% of their minutes, and they are the 3rd least experienced team entering the MEAC this season. The lone bright spot for the Eagles is the trio of sophomores in that backcourt that they do return. We're looking at specifically Ryan Archie, the point guard, 24.6 minutes per game last season, 9.3 points per game. Arion Muner Jones, 23.8 minutes per game, 3.8 points per game, 3 rebounds per game. And Cameron Jack Sparrow, 28.5 minutes per game, 6.3 points per game, and 3.5 rebounds per game. They lost a large chunk of this roster from last season. Most importantly, Justin Winston, 13.2 points per game, and Greg Spurlock, who played 30.5 minutes and averaged 8 and 4. Mac, I like the core. It's a young core, granted, but I like the give me that trio. They're probably all roommates too. I like them growing up together. This is a team that I expect to be near the basement in the MEAC, but I think that's one good positive that I can throw out here for Larry Stewart in his first year as a head coach.
It's actually his second. He was the head coach last year. He took over for Juan Dixon. Juan Dixon stepped down 2 years ago, so I think it was fired. So he was, but I mean, what you said about the covers being bare were very bare when he took over. Yes, the record was not there, but I thought that I thought, like, from a competitive standpoint, they were better than they were a couple years ago. I know that they struggled down the stretch, but yeah, I think they take a little bit of a step forward. I mean, they have to. I mean, they were 2-20 last year, and they didn't say it back. But yes, it's a young group. No Coach Stewart a little bit now that they went through it once. I think a little bit of a step here, but definitely a bottom half of the league team. You can't. The top half, I think, is pretty easy to predict again.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I feel like I do have a good read on this conference. Interesting name that at least I'm familiar with. Julius Eberle III transfers in from Eastern Michigan. Played 24 minutes a game last season with them, averaged 5-5. Not a bad piece entering the MEAC, and also NAIA transfer from Florida Memorial. He was a point guard, but he's 6'6", averaged 13 points per game with 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So that's interesting. They also hit the JUCO transfer portal pretty good. This is funny. Cameron Brown and Karan Brown. I'm assuming they're brothers. You can assume that because of the apostrophes after the third letter in both of their names, in the same Ron. But yeah, both of those guys played pretty well at Allegheny, Maryland last season. So it's going to be pretty interesting. This is a team that I will probably determine how low they finish in November and December. But for right now, they're near the back.
You ready for the first world tour? Opening night at Wake Forest. They got to go to High Point. They're at Virginia. They're at Miami. They're at George Mason. They're at St. Joe's. They're at NC State. And they're at Penn State and Georgetown. So that'll be their Coppin State World Tour. I will say at least some of this is a little bit geographic, like with Virginia, Georgetown, because Coppin State's located outside of Baltimore, I believe.
Yeah, they are favored in one game, according to Torvik, favored by 1.5 against Loyola, Maryland. They're home that game too, so
they are.
Shout out to them.
That's what's the name of our arena there? The physical education complex.
Bring your membership.
Yes, bring bring your membership. Bring your inhaler. That's what I was trying to say. That's what Colton would say. Bring your inhaler for PE class.
Oh man. Next up in alphabetical order here is the Delaware State Hornets. They returned the third least production from a season ago, but they returned their star Martaz Robinson. He played 34.5 minutes per game last season, 16 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 41.8% from the field, 32% from deep. This was, sometimes the best portal gets are the ones that were on your roster, because he did come back. But this team also did pretty well in the portal. Munir Newton comes in from Albany, 14.3 minutes per game, 4.5 points per game, 4.2 rebounds. They get a Cal State Bakersfield transfer in the front court. Kareem Watson, 6'8", redshirt sophomore, played 8 minutes last season. And then also from Cal State Bakersfield, Kareem Watson. I assume that's the brother of Kareem Watson. And then we get Jesse Kennard, a D3 transfer from Covenant College, averaged 13.5 points per game there. We'll see how that translates into Division I competition. And also a D2 transfer from West Chester, Robert Smith, 17.2% or points per game. Sorry. But yeah, the two hits for this team, Jevin Muniz and Dewillick Tavares, both of them over 30 minutes per game last season, both of them over 13 points per game. Two big hits. I'm thinking that they're also probably a bottom half team here, Mac. How about you?
Yeah, Stan Waterman entering his 4th year. Him and Delaware State and South Carolina State, man, these 2 teams were the 2 teams that made the biggest jumps last year in this league. Waterman won 6 combined games the first 2 years. 8 games. He went 2 wins year 1, then 6, and then doubled that right away in year 3, winning 15 games last year. But they lose a ton. They were old last year. I think I'm with you. Not bottom tier, but kind of in that 5 to 6 range is what I'm thinking for Delaware State. I just think they lost too much production, but I like what Waterman's done with the program. I mean, anytime you go from 2 to 6 and then jump to 15, that's a positive trajectory looking in on the program.
100%. Before we get on to our next team here in the MEAC conference season preview, Underdog Fantasy Pick'em is giving you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry. The NFL is back, and there are a ton of Pick'em specials to get you started, plus great action for college football. The lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts and no-sweat entries. You can now use these in all flexed entries. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN at the top left portion of the screen here on YouTube to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the college basketball experience, talking MEAC, doing the season preview. Yes, we're doing 31 of these for all of the conferences in Division I for college basketball. No more independent this season. Shout out to our guy Jim Root of 3-Man Weave. I'm currently using his spreadsheet because there is no almanac, and he was a huge contributor to the almanac last year. This year he's doing a lot of preseason work with Trilly Donovan with the burner, but that's on Discord. And the folks in our Discord, SGPN Discord, know that I'm not very active in Discord, and I'm not gonna quite give in to preseason college basketball content for Discord, unfortunately. So, like, shout out to Jim for just throwing a bunch of the rosters on a spreadsheet, and I can go to town and create my own analysis from that. But yeah, I appreciate it. And we're going to continue, forge along here with one of the 3-headed monster teams, I would say, in the MEAC this season. It's the Howard Bison. They were 18-17 a season ago, 9-5, finished 3rd in the MEAC, but won the conference tournament, represented this league in the NCAA tournament. Howard returns 53% of their minutes from an NCAA tournament team last year and is the most experienced team entering the season in the MEAC, according to Torvik. Bryce Harris returns to rain terror upon this league once again, as he finished with 16.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 32 minutes per game, 37.5% from deep, 54.7% from the field. He's going to be surrounded by a lot of experience. I mean, they've got 6 seniors or graduate transfers that come in here, 4 transfers. Anwar Gill in the backcourt, 6'4", 26 minutes per game last season at LaSalle, averaged 9.3 points per game. Jaron Johnson, 28 minutes per game, 7.3 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists at Dartmouth last year. Munir Hema comes in from Syracuse. We also have a Columbia transfer that didn't play last season, Cameron Shockley Okiki. And then they do lose Seth Towns. So this was a big enigma in the preseason for folks that were following whether or not this kid was coming back this season for his 9th year of college basketball. It what seemed like it. He averaged 14 points per game last season for Howard. They do lose 5 guys that played double-digit minutes a season ago, but I don't really think they're going to be affected by it all too much. Marcus Dockery, a senior point guard, 34 minutes per game last season, 13.5 points per game, 40.6% from deep, 42.2% from the field. Shooting wise, him and Bryce Harris are going to be a great duo in the MEAC this season. I have Howard as a title contender, Mac.
Yeah, you have to. And Kenny Blakeney's in his 5th year now or 6th year. They've been to back-to-back tournaments. They have the most resources in the league. I mean, they host high major teams. I mean, the one NCAA tournament game, Kamala Harris was in their locker room. So they have like notable alumni that have gone to Howard. So it's the Bison, man. They're going to be in the hunt every year. Them in Norfolk State and North Carolina Central, they're able to get talent into this program via the portal, and Blakeney's done a good job of acquiring that talent and finding a system where guys can come in right away, kind of getting those guys that are in their 4th, 5th year, even Seth Town 6th or 7th year, on kind of like a last chance you type deal where you want to play one last year and put up some numbers and parlay that into something where you can create an opportunity overseas. So yeah, Howard is going to be a title contender again in this league.
Yeah, and I mean, shit, they had 2 reported transfers. I don't know what's going on with this situation for both of them, Antonio Cole and Eddie Turner III. So Cole, or Chol, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, was a reported Rutgers transfer to Howard, and Eddie Turner III came in from Montana State, but neither of them are on the official roster that Howard put out. So, there's a lot of reports that go on Twitter, X, or wherever we're getting news, whether it be Reddit or any other message boards. But for what it looks like currently, I don't think they're going to be on the roster. But if they are, this team's even better. Last season, what's up?
I was going to say, and to Noah, to like the resources standpoint, they have 4 home games in the non-con. That's more than I can ever remember a MEAC team ever having. Yeah, they got to go to Kansas and Missouri to start. But for you to get home games against Mount St. Mary's, Wilmington, and Drexel, I mean, those are
Wilmington and Drexel for sure.
Yeah.
Hasty saying they're favored in a lot of non-conference games. The one I would guess, I would say bugaboo for this team last year, they finished 7th defensively in efficiency on KenPom out of 8 teams in this conference, and during the conference slate. If they can take any step up, this is the conference winner this season. But we'll see how that takes place here this season. Apologize. Frog in my throat there. Maryland Eastern Shore is the next team up for us in our discussion today. They finished 9-20 a season ago overall, 4-10 in the MEAC, finishing 7th, aka second to last. Jason Crafton inherited a disaster at Maryland Eastern Shore, and albeit he couldn't climb out of the abyss with the Hawks, man, he never even had a chance. And now the roster is once again totally turned over on the Shore, and it would be a miracle, in my opinion, if Cleo Hill Jr. got this mess anywhere close to 500 in league. Hill led Winston-Salem State to 2 conference championships during his 5-year tenure, and now he'll look to take a handful of JUCOs transfers to the promised land in 2024-25. This team is kind of pieced together with a bunch of glue from D2 JUCO. The entire backcourt, JUCO, D2, Hassan Perkins, Jose Coelho, or Ko. Don't know how they would pronounce that if he is Hispanic. Both of those kids were ballers where they played, but we'll have to see how this translates. Katron Shaw was at Winston-Salem State under Cleo Hill Jr. He follows coach in Lawrence Foreman, a D2 transfer from St. Thomas Aquinas, also transfers in. Same with Jaden Thompson from Charleston Southern, played 14 and a half minutes a game last season. And then Trey Hall from Utah Tech. Other than that, I mean, this roster is totally new. And not many of these kids played D1 basketball a season ago. Mac, I don't have much else positive to say about this team, so I'm just going to stop and hand you the baton.
Yeah, so Noah, when I was trying to research on this team, Cleo Hill, you mentioned, takes over the program. this kind of feels like we talked about it with Waterman at Delaware State, or Stewart in year one at Coppin, or Eric Martin, who we're going to get to at South Carolina State his first year before jumping. It kind of feels like this is going to be a total rebuild year, and this could be this is the basement in the MEAC.
Yeah.
I hate to be completely blunt before we give out our final rankings, but they just have so many unknowns, so many unproven pieces, and it's a lot to overhaul. So probably this is going to be a 3, 4, 5 win team. To be honest, hopefully maybe they can win some close games in league play and come on late in February. But I think we're going to see some growing pains, especially with it being a first year head coach and just pulling up their schedule for their world tour.
While you do this, I'll jump in real quick first.
Go ahead.
And Hasty in the chat says Torvik only shows 6 players currently for Maryland Eastern Shore. Jim Root, who, like I said, I'm using his spreadsheet for the basis of just my roster knowledge. There are currently 19 college basketball teams that have not made their roster official. Maryland Eastern Shore is one of those. And currently, Root has 9 players assembled on this roster, but certainly isn't good if we're having to scrounge and scrub up every corner of the internet to try to find people on this roster. I mean, they've got literally so many D2 JUCO transfers. I don't know if they're finished.
And they will be at Vanderbilt opening night, and then they go to Miami of Ohio, ODU, Murray State, and this is where it gets good. 3 in a row. Illinois, Arkansas, UConn. And then they throw Little Rock in there, Longwood as well, who's a good program. And then they finish off with Maryland. Good God. This is going to be ugly.
Yeah, Vanderbilt under Byington, look for them to make a statement in game 1. That's my prediction. That one might get really ugly. But yeah, to your point, not many spots for them to even really compete on that schedule in the non-conference. They've got like 2 home games against non-D1s, but that's about it. Hopefully they win those. The next team on our MEAC preview that we're talking about today is the Morgan State Bears. Last season, they finished 11-20, 7-7 in conference, 5th in the MEAC final regular season standings. They returned 76% of their minutes from last season. According to Bart Torvik, the Bears will be the second most experienced team entering this year in the MEAC. Kevin Broadus has hovered Morgan State right around 500 in the MEAC in each of his 5 years in Baltimore. Last year, the Bears had an offense that finished in the top half of the league, and they cashed in when they went to the free throw line, hitting 80.5% of them in conference play. They are returning each of their top 5 scorers from last season, so I'm expecting a slight step up from the Bears this season. They only lose 2 guys that played over 20 minutes per game last season, Alan Udamadu and Miles Thompson. Only 1 new player comes in. There's 2. Matar Wade, a freshman, and then 1 transfer from Georgia Southern, Pierce Shirk. Everybody else, I mean, pretty much the entire roster comes in, is the same from last season. There is one more, there's a couple more transfers. Forget what I said about that. But the trio here of Winston Tabbs, Will Thomas on the wings, both of them, and then Cameron Hobbs playing the point. He averaged 3.5 assists per game last season. Rob Lawson, his Robin to the Batman, 3.3 assists there. This is a team that's going to be able to dish the ball around. They've got etiquette shooting around the court, and 3 guys that averaged double-digit points per game last season. I really like what the core that Morgan State has, and I think there's a step up for this team from 500. I don't know how high Broadus can take them, but I think there's some positivity here for the Bears entering this year.
Yeah, you look at Brodus's his just tenure there, every year it kind of feels like they're right around that 14-15 win mark, and then in league play they're 7-7, 1 year 8-7. So I guess they had to forfeit one game only in the MEAC. But yeah, it's with what they got coming back, they should be able to take a step up. We'll see if they can jump from 5th into that top half of the league. I kind of think so, but I also like some of these other teams in the league too. So definitely a middle of the pack with a chance of a ceiling, I think, to maybe sneak into that top 2 or 3 in the regular season if some of these guys can take another step. And quick note on Brodus too is he was really good at Binghamton before they had some off the court issues. I forget what it was. I mean, he led him to the NCAA tournament, so this is a proven coach that's led a winning program before, and for him to stay steady at Morgan State, he's done a good job there in 5 years.
Yeah, and they don't have nearly the gauntlet that some of the other teams in the MEAC have this year. I'm counting up. They play 1, 2, 3 high majors, and they all come in December. So like they've got a relatively manageable November. Not a whole lot of games that we'll be able to bet on. The first 4, 2 of them we'll see odds for, and both of them will be large spreads, one in favor of them, and then they play Longwood. Torvik has them as an 11.5-point dog there, but this team should be interesting. They might be carrying a little bit too much expectation coming into the MEAC because they'll probably have one of the better records entering conference play by my estimation. But I think this is right, like I said, Brodus, they've finished right around 500 in every single year he's been there.
Yeah.
Another thing that we can agree on is BetUS, because they've been the best in the business for around 40 years in the U.S. Bet anywhere. BetUS is available in tons of locations, including internationally, and they have a massive props menu, same-game parlays, and some of the best boosts in the business, plus an all-new live betting experience. Easily deposit your cryptocurrency and get lightning-fast payouts when you want to cash out. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football, basketball, baseball? SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to create and build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Rhythm, RITHMM. Let it ride. And we are back here on the College Basketball Experience home free, discussing MEAC college basketball, specifically a conference season preview here on the College Basketball Experience YouTube channel, every podcast platform that is currently out there right now. Isaiah Ingalls says, "Go Tigers, Noah." Thank you all for the insight tonight. Shout out to Isaiah and everybody in the chat. I mean, we've had over 400 of you guys tune in across Twitter and YouTube. Twitter counts every single person that's scrolled past the live stream. So I don't think there are 400 sickos, but there are quite a bit of you guys tuning in here, and happy halftime if it is getting close to Sunday Night Football. Halftime.
Who needs Bears Texans when you got MEAC basketball? Let's go.
Facts. Norfolk State Spartans is the next team that we're talking about here. They finished 24-11 last season, 11-3, first place in the MEAC regular season. They ran away with this for MEAC terms. They won this thing by 2 games last year. Norfolk State's regular season championship roster kind of fell apart during the offseason due to portal and graduation. We're looking at here Alan Bertrand, Christian Ings, Jamari Thomas is the big name. He was the leading scorer in the conference last season, I believe. Conference Player of the Year, I believe. Tyrell Bladen, Naziah Chambers, Tyrese Jenkins, Daryl Anderson, Jack Doumbia, Terrence Jones, George Beal, all of them gone. This is a big chunk of the roster that they have to replace. They do go into the portal. They grab Brian Moore Jr., a Murray State transfer who played 23 minutes a game for the Racers last season, 9.2 points per game, 1.5 assists, 46.5% shooting from the field. I feel pretty confident in the Spartans reloading under Robert Jones. They've finished either first or second in offensive efficiency in each of the last 6 seasons on KenPom. I'll expect a lot of the top-notch offense to come from the 2 seniors in the backcourt, that being Brian Moore Jr. from Murray State, and then the other, Jaylani, one of the 3, Darden. He returns. He's 6'5", a senior, 24.5 minutes per game last season, averaged 7 and 5, and shot it well, 53% from the field, 36.5% from deep. Mac, what do you think about Norfolk State, one of the Titans in this conference?
Yeah, definitely one of the Titans. Robert Jones is going into his 12th year. In his 11 prior years, they have finished 1 or 2 in 10 out of the 11 years. 1 year that they didn't, they finished 3rd. So, like you said, they're one of the Titans. They do lose a lot. Like you said, they're not bringing back a bunch like Morgan State or South Carolina State, but you got to just trust the culture and the coaching and Robert Jones that they're going to find a way. They have the resources at Norfolk. We remember them beating Missouri once upon a time in an NCAA tournament. Recently, man, though, they just have not been able to get over the hump and get to the tournament. They actually, I looked. They did go to 3 years ago, so I thought it'd been longer than that. But yeah,
Howard's had a nice little streak here the last 2 years.
Howard's kind of pushing them for the top dog right now in this league. But Norfolk State, they'll be right there to contend for another league title under Robert Jones. I trust what they're bringing in. It's talent. I think it'll take a little bit to mesh, but they'll be good late for sure.
Love it. I'm clicking on the Norfolk State's schedule here. They play at Stanford, at Grand Canyon, at UC Davis. Nice little West Coast trip there. At Baylor. And at High Point, at Tennessee. High Point is a really interesting team this year. They're paying up to host a really good non-con this season. So that one should be a very fun game between the 2 programs. Hasty saying the Winthrop transfer McMahon will know how to play right. That is McMahon. I don't see McMahon on my sheet here.
I don't have it either.
So, moving on to NC Central.
Did you mean Matting?
He said matting or mating a little bit earlier. Mating is tough. But I don't see a McMahon in here. Khalil Mating could be who he's talking about. Played 19.5 minutes a game last season. But let's move on to NC Central. Both you and Colby love you some Lavelle Moten. 18-13 a season ago, 9-5 in conference, good for tied for second. NC Central returns the 2nd most production from a season ago, and they have the 3rd most experienced team in the MEAC preseason. This was the number 1 offense in the MEAC last season, but our favorite all-name team player. Wow, that was a little tongue twister for me. I don't know why. But Po Boy King is back. Let's go, baby. Junior season after logging, in his sophomore season, he put up 14.5 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, shot at 43.6% from the field. Entering his junior year, he's going to have to do it with a new backcourt, though. Isaac Parson, a D2 transfer from Winston-Salem State. he's going to be going up against his old head coach in conference. He shot it well, 35.5% from deep, 39.5% from the field. Probably a volume shooter, as he did average 12.5 points per game, 5 boards, 5 assists. This is a ball player. And then a SEMO transfer, Aquan Smart. He's in his 5th year, played 22 minutes a game last season, averaged 8, 3, and 2.5 assists. This is a really interesting team, in my opinion. I don't know what to truly expect from Parson coming in, but knowing that he did average 5.5 assists lets me think that he's going to be able to dish the ball around, no matter the level. This is not a kid that's going to chuck up a ton of threes as the ball handler here. And with Po' Boy King being one of the best scorers returning in the league, I like the upside here for NC Central, but I don't think their ceiling could be as high as Howard's. How about you?
Yeah, so kind of to echo everything I said about Robert Jones, I mean, Lavelle Moton is 15 years there. He's had a winning record every year except for the COVID year in his first year. So, and to do that with all those bye games they got to play is a testament to the program he's been able to build and sustain. Yes, the faces are going to change, but you know what you're going to get out of this program. They're going to play hard. They're going to be well coached, well prepared. And they'll be in the top half, in my opinion, of this league. I don't think that they're as good as Norfolk and Howard, but I think they lead that next tier. He's surprisingly, they weren't as good defensively last year as they have been in the past, but I expect maybe a new group buy in defensively, get better and better throughout the year. I mean, how can you not put this team with what Moton's been there for years and years in your top half?
Yeah, and this Parson coming in from Winston-Salem State did average over a steal per game last year as well. So this kid just seems like a little bulldog coming into NC Central. Could be fun to watch. Yeah. I haven't seen much of his game, only his highlight reel, which is basically all offense, but he might be a guy that I like. And let's talk about a guy that you like, South Carolina State. Your boy Eric Martin, the head man over there. They finished 14-18 a season ago. Man, was that impressive and a step up from 5 overall wins, 2 conference wins the season prior. They went 9-5 in the MEAC. They finished 4th in the conference. Actually, 9-5 is incorrect. I didn't change that. They went 9-5. They did go 9-5. So they were also tied for second. There's a 3-way tie for second here in conference. My apologies. I shouldn't have doubted myself in my note taking. They finished. They finished 4th. So I did screw up there, but tied for second. They returned the 3rd most minutes from a season ago in the MEAC. The Bulldogs operated at the slowest tempo in the conference, and they had the best rebounding team on offense and defense in the MEAC last season. So if you can limit the other team's possession with slow gameplay and also steal a couple of your own possessions for yourself, that's a good recipe for success, man. All of that gets emphasized when Eric Martin's big portal grab this season of Travion McCray from Western Carolina comes in. If he can stay healthy, he can be one of the leading contributors for this South Carolina State team this season. That's the issue, though. Like, he's struggled to get onto the court. His last full season was in 2022, where he averaged 27.5 minutes per game. He was double-digit scorer, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and he shot it well. He was a volume shooter, though, there too. This team kind of spreads the ball all over. They don't really have one leading scorer, and that was the same way last season as well. They don't lose a ton of big-time contributors from a season ago. No. This should be a pickup right where we left off type of team. It's just the matter of, can you crack the Howard, NC Central, Norfolk State top 3 in conference? Michael Teal, 21.5 minutes per game last season. Mitchell Taylor, 20 minutes per game. Caleb McCarty, 20 minutes per game. And Drayton Jones, 17.5 minutes per game. That's your returning starting 5. Again, this team's scrappy on the glass specifically. Led the conference on the offensive glass and defensive glass. MEAC, This is your guy. Let us know how confident you are in his team this season.
No, I love the Bulldogs. There was that clip that went viral on our show with our friends over at Mid Major Madness that he's got 8 guys back from that team that got hot. And you said they're one of the better rebounding teams. Who did Eric Martin play for? Bob Huggins. So that's where that rebounding culture, toughness comes from. Emart's done a really good job, man. And I think I talked about it last year. When he got the job the first year, he got the job in late July. So you can't really feel the team in late July for the upcoming season. So year one, he basically had no chance at winning, kind of like what we're talking about with Eastern Shore and Coppin State and some of those bottom tiers. But he elevated that thing right away in year number 2. I think they have a chance to contend for the league title, man. And I don't think it's a biased take just because Emart's my guy. I like what they brought back. You look how they finished year 2. They started league play 0-2, which means they won 9 out of their last 12 down the stretch to really get some momentum. And they were picked off by Delaware State in the conference tournament. So all those guys coming back, I like the Bulldogs a lot this year.
This is a really interesting preseason rankings set that we're about to have here, because like we always do, we're ranking these things in the preseason. We're trying to predict how they finish at the end of the year. There could be some projection in between. I don't typically do that though. I kind of just shoot from the hip. I see what I see. I'm gonna rank it like that. There are things to like from a couple of teams that, if you really lean into that handicap, they could crack your top 3. But there's really good culture in this league that other programs, it's tough to match for them. Let's start from the bottom of the top. Number 8, Mac, who do you have finishing last in the MEAC?
I think we're going to agree on the bottom 4. But the last one I know we're going to agree on, Maryland Eastern Shore.
It's going to be really rough. It's going to be a tough season for the Hawks. That's my 8.
Yeah, I figured. Do you have Coppin at 7?
I do have Coppin at 7. That was kind of Delaware State at 6.
Yep, I figured.
Yeah, okay, and this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. So at 5, man, they bring back a lot, and I like them. I think that you know what? Let me go back and look back on last year. So last year you had 11-3 to win the league, and then you had 3 9-5s, and you had a 7-7.
For what he's talking about for the listeners, he's talking about Morgan State.
Yes, I like Morgan State, but I don't think they're better than those other 4 teams, and so I'm going to put them 5th. But I could see them finishing over 500 in league play, where I think what we're going to see is Eastern Shore, Coppin, and Delaware State. Maybe not Delaware State. They'll pick off some teams just because Waterman's a good coach. But those bottom 2 are going to be maybe like 2-12 bad at the bottom.
Yeah, they're both going to just feed a lot of these teams some wins this season. I'm torn between South Carolina State and Morgan State at 4-5. I don't think either one of them cracked the top 3. And
over there again.
And coming in, I had Morgan at 4. I have Morgan retaking the top half of the conference here. I have SC State taking the very slightest step back into the 5th position in the MEAC. I still think they could probably finish above 500, and they're still 5th. Because of the situation that we have at the bottom of this conference. But I gotta do it. So I'm gonna take Morgan State at 4th, South Carolina State at 5th.
Okay. At number 4, for my 4, I had Central. So top half, they're gonna grind out a 9-5, 8-6, be right there. But yeah, I like Central and Lavelle Moden at 4 for me.
Okay. Who's your number? Let's get into your top 3. Let's crack it just a little bit. Who do you have finishing 3rd?
At 3, give me Norfolk State to take a step back this year.
I have Norfolk State third too.
Yeah, like I like them, but they did lose a lot. I think maybe they won a bunch of close games last year. Maybe they lose a couple close games with all the turnover. So Norfolk State at number 3 for me. You had them at 3?
Yep.
And number 2.
I'll go with my number 2 since you revealed your number 3.
Yeah.
I have North Carolina Central at 2. I like the little point guard that they're bringing in from D2. And Pull Boy King coming in is one of the better players returning in this conference, better scorers. I don't think there's going to be any limit to the way that they operate offensively. Defensively is a little bit of a question mark for me, but I like this team from a systematic standpoint, and I'm not going to doubt Moten. He's been a winner in this conference, so there's good culture there. So NC Central at 2. Now the big reveal.
Number 2, Howard.
He took his guy to win the conference.
Let's go. We finished second last year. We're gonna win We're gonna win the regular season this year. They won. They bring back 8 contributors off that team that finished 2 games out. They're getting it done this year. I like the core intact. Year 3, they make another jump here. South Carolina State, the Bulldogs, and Orangeburg are going to win the MEAC regular season.
Oh, I respect your loyalty, dude. Oh man,
it's not crazy. They finished 2 games out last year. They're going to be right there.
They took a gigantic step forward last year. If they have the same kind of trajectory, who knows what they could be capable of? But you've got more balls than me. I couldn't allow them to crack my top 3. Conference tournament champion, does it change for you at all from South Carolina State?
I got a bad. If they're the 1 seed, I don't think that they're going to win. That's a lot of pressure for like a team that would have jumped a step and then took another step. And then we've seen it, like it took Lavelle Moden a couple years to win. It took Robert Jones a couple years, Blakeney a couple years. I think one of maybe the traditional programs would win the tournament if South Carolina State won the regular season. I mentioned it. Lavelle Moden hasn't been there in a minute. Give me Central to win the tournament.
That's exactly what you said in last year's preview.
Yeah. Double dash.
Exactly what, word for word, was your lone prediction that you got wrong in this conference last year. And I was going to go right there with you this season as well. Look, the only thing like I don't love about NC Central is they don't have a ton of continuity entering this season, but they've got the great culture. And I think this is a team that's going to grow within the season, and they'll be playing their best ball come March. Like they've got a couple of transfers that are going to start this season. I think this is the team that peaks at the right time this year. NC Central, I'm riding the Moten train with you guys this season for once. So let's go. I'm buying in.
Who's your sleeper? I get with Central.
I'm chalk in all 3. I have Howard, NC Central, Norfolk State finishing top 3. I'm going to go with Morgan State 4th, just because I can't have a sleeper finishing 6th, 7th, or 8th. I do think it's a sizable jump in this league to jump 1 or 2 spots in general. The only issue is I don't have a jump. Like you could say Howard from 3 to 1 in regular season standings, but Howard won the tournament last year. So it's not a fun pick, but it's a small conference. I'm going to go with Morgan State as my sleeper. South Carolina State has to be your sleeper, right?
Yeah, it definitely is, because I don't think I know the national media doesn't realize that they were just 2 games out of first place last year, and then they got all this coming back. So, yeah, they're definitely my sleeper if they can dethrone Howard, Norfolk, and NC Central. I don't really have a bust. I mean, is Norfolk finishing out of the top 2 a bust?
I think so. Like that's that's the biggest drop that I have too.
I want to make a bold prediction. I don't even think it's bold, actually. Screw it. I think the top 4, and you may even throw Morgan State in there. I think the top 5 all finished within 2 games of one another. I think it's going to be that tight up top.
You saw it last year. I mean,
yeah.
4 teams won 9 or more games.
Yep.
In this conference, and it's a conference that only plays 14 conference games. There was a 1-13 team last year in Coppin State. Maryland Eastern Shore is not winning 4 games in conference this season. No. You can book that. So that's 2 or 3 more wins wherever you want to place them in the schedule this season. The top 5 in this conference is legitimate, and I don't see it changing from what it was last season. If anything, Morgan State's going to win 1 or 2 more games, in my opinion. So I think the bold statement, although it happened last year too, is like each team in the top 5 could win 9 games. The only team that didn't last year was Morgan State, but I think they do this year.
Would it shock you if Morgan State won the regular season? It would not shock me at all.
No, I would say it would. I would say it would. I think one of the 3, it's a 3-headed dragon in this conference, in my opinion.
Dethrone it.
Slay it.
We're coming to slay you. We're slaying you this year. I'm moneyline MEAC, baby. South Carolina State coming to slay the dragon. Howard, Norfolk, NC Central. I'm fired up for this league, man. The more and more I look at just how evenly these, in my opinion, these teams up top are, this is going to be a fun regular season to fall. And they put the games on Monday night, so we're going to be able to see these games more and more, not buried on a 70 game slate on a Thursday.
Yeah, your fired up and my fired up definitions are a little bit different. I fear this conference. A bunch of tight spreads incoming for these top 5 teams here. I am going to go under 500 picking every single game, but they're going to be fun games in isolated slates to watch 100%.
Ivetta makes a good point. Delaware State as a dog is going to be – I mean, we saw what they did in the conference tournament. They upset –
Howard as a favorite sucks.
Yes.
Who was they it? Didn't cover many games.
Yeah, Delaware State last year in the tourney, I talk about how great South Carolina State was in the regular season. They upset South Carolina State in the first round, and then they went and upset Lavelle Moden and then lost a 1-possession game to Howard in the championship game. The Hornets almost went dancing.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
They gave Howard they were up like 20 in the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it was 20, but they were up.
I got to go find this now because they were up on this.
I got you fired up for the MEAC, baby. Unfortunately, they get their ass kicked on all these bye games for 2 months before we get to the actual MEAC.
They were up with they were up 66-53 with 8 minutes to go last season in the conference championship game.
I remember that. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. They play theirs on them in the SWAC. They bury the SWAC and MEAC title. They need to move to Friday night. They need to move the championship to a Friday night. They gets buried on that championship Saturday with all those high majors.
Yeah, was it Sunday?
No. The Sunday, they don't have many on Sunday because of the brackets already made. They got the Big Ten, the SEC.
Gotcha.
A-10. A-10's always the early one. ACC.
I must have been some kind of sicko though, because I watched that game. And Championship Saturday is ridiculous. There's so many.
You are a sicko. I mean, the chat right here, Crutch is saying.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Crutch. He says the only 2 sickos I know talking MEAC basketball during Sunday Night Football.
The Bears got Caleb Williams. They're a MEAC team at heart. The Bears suck.
I got Caleb Williams on my fantasy team, so that means I'm a MEAC fan at heart too.
Yeah,
let's go.
Hey, before Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud got to these franchises, this was a MEAC game when
that was
when Lovie Smith was sabotaging the number 1.
He was on both
pick.
Staffs.
Yeah, it's the Lovie Smith Bowl, baby.
It is. So yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to binge all of these conference previews we're doing here this college basketball preseason, we've got them all in playlists on our YouTube channel, along with Mac's summer school coaches tour, where he's trying to interview 68 mid-major head coaches across the landscape of college basketball. And we're also doing TCE trims, which is basically just trimming out one of the biggest headlines of the day in college basketball preseason news. If you scroll a little bit further on our YouTube channel, or if you're just curious on other content from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, we've got something for everybody. There's a podcast on MMA and even smaller niche sports than that. But it's growing. The UFC is definitely growing. The shout out to them for doing that Sphere thing. That was kind of sick on Saturday night. The last two fights weren't as exciting, but they were dominant. Yeah, so the Sports Gambling Podcast touches it all, for every big event outside of NFL, but they really hit home on NFL. And shout out to the College Football Experience. They're doing picks for every single FBS and FCS game this season. Colby's grinding his ass off, and he'll be joining us this week. We're planning on doing the Mountain West. We will announce that for sure on Twitter and in the Discord, however many times we can. We're looking to preview the MWC this week. That's going to wrap it up for today, the college basketball experience. You better start thinking about yours. Adios, amigos.
MEAC.
Moneyline MEAC.
Hey, we're coming up next on TCE Trim, everybody.